Hello, class, and happy wonderful Friday. This is Professor Augusto Suarez bringing you Class 1, an introduction to the course and some of the material we're going to be going over. And I'm excited to have you guys here, so let's get started. So what is social networking, right? So we're going to break it into two parts, the social part and the network. The social aspect of social media really describes the camaraderie and community that is involved in social media and social networking. The working definition we're going to be using in this class is it's a medium to deliver information where the content is primarily provided by the users and the community at large, right? So the other aspect is the media side where it's pretty much how it's being relayed. So, back in the day, there used to be newspapers, television. Now it's all YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram. That's really how we consume a lot of our information. And the other piece about the information that's being presented is it's coming in three forms. It's informative, it's persuasive, and also entertainment. And the biggest example is YouTube, right? How many people go to YouTube to kind of relax from the stress of the day? And that's because YouTube actually provides a great service for people who are looking for something specific to look at. They could search, and not only that, they could comment on the material that's actually being presented versus the opposite, which would be television. I mean, television is what people in the communication discipline would call a cold media, where the information and the videos and the content being presented, people like me who's watching it or the consumer can't comment on it or can't even put some input unless it's something like American Idol. But YouTube, if you read some of the comments are just as entertaining as the video. So I mean, it's definitely night and day, and it's definitely impacted the revenue model for television. And some companies really had to change the way that they do business as far as television and content material to compete with some of these major companies. And that's just a sign of the times. And if you want to be in the times and not behind the times, you gotta definitely keep up with social media and social media network. So now that we have a working definition, we want to break it down into four pieces that are going to help us to determine whether we're successful or not in our endeavors, right? And the first piece, which I always start out with anything that I pursue, is vision. And what this is where I want to be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But for the case of this class, where do I want to be at the end of this class with respect to my project that I'm doing if you're doing the extra credit, or with respect to my knowledge and my practical knowledge of the material, right? The other aspect that we want to take into account is the platform or platforms we're going to be using to really understand social networking and the advantages to social networking. And as we spoke about it before, the value in social networking is we as a community are the ones who are contributing to the content that's up. But the other aspect is we may have influence over the people that we impact with our content. We may be able to monetize, to be able to support and sponsor some of the things that we care about and we believe in. And finally, we might be able to change somebody's life with the things that we're saying, with the information that we're giving them. So these are things that are not only encompassed in the vision, but the platforms you decide to use to be able to get that message across, whatever message that may be. The third thing is the goals, right? So you want to be able to have a specific goal that you want to have and break it down. So let's say my vision, for example, is to expose people to new ideas and unorthodox advice when it comes to personal finance. So a way to have goals to be able to accomplish that is to have a certain amount of viewership, to have a streamline of clients that I deal with, to be able to have content that's relevant to the material and to the subject matter that I want to discuss. All these things are goals that
tie into my vision for what I want to accomplish. And the last piece are the benchmarks and objectives to those goals. And these are specific, time-bound, attainable, realistic goals that I am setting aside with respect to, benchmarks and objectives that I'm setting aside with respect to the goals that I set. If it's a bit confusing, the way you want to think of benchmarks is these are time-bound deliverables, time-bound actions that you want to take that are going to get you to your goal. And objectives are also actions, but they're not necessarily time-bound in the sense they contribute to the completion of the goal, right? In essence, they're relatively the same thing. They're actions that you do that get you closer to what you want to accomplish. But the key is with benchmarks and objectives, benchmarks are tied to something. For example, what I was saying, time. So if you set a goal to have 100 followers on Instagram by the end of January, that's a benchmark that you could track every day. And if for some reason you don't feel you're going to meet that benchmark, then you could adapt and adjust. And that is really the key to having a working definition of not just what is social media, but how to be successful. Because the last thing you want to do, guys, is waste your time. Time is valuable, man. Yeah, there's people here who could be working, taking the money that they're investing in college and investing it in Bitcoin and trying to get rich. But the reality is you have to invest in yourself first before you try to invest in other things, because chances are Bitcoin has such a high risk. But if you invest in yourself, you're giving yourself the tools to be successful in any scenario.
So one thing that was very important from the social media Bible that I took from it was their breakdown on some of the participants in social media, right? And they break it down into 5 sections as far as how they contribute to the media that's actually presented, as well as some of the ideas that are being put forth, right? So let's go through them, right? The first part is lurkers. So the way that social media Bible talks about it is these are people that don't necessarily contribute to the conversation or the content, but just view stuff and they'll like it or they'll comment on it. But as far as contributing or putting up content, they're not really at that point. And most people fall in this category as far as the communities that are involved, right? For those of you that use Instagram or Facebook, the way I would define lurkers is they're people that don't necessarily have a network of professionals or network of people involved in a certain discipline. They're just there to have friends and send messages and like pictures, right? Then you have novices, which this is really what the class is geared towards. These are people who are just getting involved in the community at large. And yes, Instagram is a large community in itself of users, but the idea is when you're looking for a community that you can monetize, these are people that are drawn together by one particular thing or one particular passion that they are so moved to be involved in that they spend money and time, right? And novices are the people that contribute a little bit, so they might have a couple posts here and there, inconsistent, but also a key thing is their followership is small, so it's about 500 to maybe 1,000 followers, right? Then you have insiders, right? And these are people who are connected to the top people in the industry. So take, for example, if you're involved with let's say you're involved with a marketing firm, right? And you're trying to promote your business as a business that could increase revenue or sales, right? um, if you have access to information and access to insight that could potentially benefit a lot of the clients, then you are considered an insider because you're providing content continuously. And only a few insiders actually become leaders in that field. Take for example some news industry buffs like New York Times, Wall Street Journal. These people have Instagram, Snapchat, Twitters, and they contribute a big portion of the conversation in the community. Why? Because they have people that they hire to go out and get this information, do the research. And not only that, they have marketing people, PR people who are able to take that information and put it in a cookie cutter size that's easily digestible by the community at large. And finally, you have the elders. These are people who have 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 followers, sometimes in the millions, right? These are celebrities who have to get their accounts verified because they have so much influence and so much pull, not just in social media, but in the world at large.
So with respect to the value of social media, besides the initial value of camaraderie, community, and the free trade of information, there are three aspects that as a business we find that they are drawn to as far as making revenue quarter after quarter. And these three things are the following. So the first thing is documenting the human experience. Take for example, in the 90s, Apple was running a marketing campaign that was tied into some of the great legends of human history, right? They highlighted people like Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Maya Angelou. And the reason was because they wanted to tie the way people perceived Apple with the way people perceived great people in history. And whenever they saw Apple, they wanted to elicit an emotion of appreciation and aspiration, right? And they wanted to inspire them not just to be better people, but to buy their product. So documenting the human experience has become a great piece of the social media platform. I mean, right now the biggest thing that people document are, reaction videos or, comedy skits or people or babies and puppies, right? But that's still a small portion of everything else, all the other content that's being put up on social media. And businesses are tuning into that because they want to be tied into the same values that relate to their company. The second piece is monetizing documentation, right? So what this means is that companies are looking for ways to make money to provide the space for people to put up the content. Some of the revenue models for Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook are ad services. So what they do is they provide a free space for people to share their content, while at the same time they charge businesses to charge relevant ads or put out relevant ads with the content that's being put up. So that's another aspect that businesses are looking at. And the third is monetizing the content itself. So what this means is sometimes you'll see, and I see this a lot with YouTube videos, the people will actually promote people who sponsor the videos. And there's different ways of doing this as well, but this also has created a revenue model for the content creator. And the way that they do this is triple fold. Sometimes they have set a Patreon or a PayPal account, or they just have people sponsor their videos or their content, which are all avenues that we're going to be looking into later in the course. So what's interesting here is we actually have an example of some of the ideas that are taken into social media, but have actually taken place before the social media existed, that and were on television. So here we have one of the first reaction videos that has ever taken place. So what's interesting is there's nothing new under the sun, right? The things that I'm teaching you are things that have been done in different scenarios, different networks, and different at different capacities, but we're applying it to our own business model or potentially a client's business model in order to help them increase revenue. So what we're seeing here is really the first reaction video, and one of the greats, Oprah Winfrey, actually setting it up for us over here. So let's take a look at this video.
So a big piece about this class is learning not just the theory but the application, right? And when you apply for jobs, they're going to want to know what experience do you have. And unfortunately, what tends to happen in school is you get a lot of the information about what is actually going on, and by the time you're on the field, that information is obsolete. It's already changed, the technology is different, and you have to relearn a lot of the things that you would need for the job on site. So with the extra credit, what I want you to do is I want you to develop your own profile online, a completely new profile based on some of your passions or some things that you find interesting, right? This could be anything from music, video games, or even what I'm doing is personal finance, right? So I set up a new one right over here. First, I set up an Instagram, I set up a Snapchat, I set up a Facebook, and I'm looking to set up different things as well moving forward, right? As you can see here, I don't have too many posts. I have 2 posts, right? One thing I do want to highlight, right? So this is actually a professional Instagram site. So if you look here, right, that is part of the appeal to it because they actually give you the ability to speak to your potential clients, right? The other piece too, which is on the second slide over here, or second thing right here, is the insight. It actually tells you exactly, gives you insight on the people who are actually following you as soon as you get a certain amount or a certain demographic. And why is this important? The big piece is that you could actually target your marketing or target your promotions to your clientele, to people that are actually purchasing or interested in buying what you're selling, right? The other piece too is when you set up a new Instagram, they're going to recommend people. So I did not connect to my network because I wanted to show some of the work that has to be put as far as developing that social media site or social media exposure. Now you're not limited to those 3 sites: Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. It's recommended because they're the most popular right now, but if you find that there's another social media site that you could use that could definitely impact your revenue, by all means, go ahead and do that. I see no reason why not. The other aspect, the difference between professional versus a regular profile, like I said before, you can track your followers, you can link up to other social media sites. It's still free, and it's relatively the same service. So it's really up to you which you decide to use. The other piece that I want to talk about is eventually we're going to get to the point where we're going to be pitching sales to these people using social media. Now here, I just started about 3 days ago, and I already have some of the scam artists who are trying to get me to invest in something. I mean, little do they know that I'm a professor in personal finance, but I mean, I figured, the name would have given away Professor Suarez, but who knows, right? So, as you can see here, I'm asking him specific questions. And, this is also part of the social media. You have to be careful who you trust and who you reach out to as far as what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and always, make sure that you're protected, right? And with the sales pitching, there's three things that need to occur for a sales to happen. There needs to be complete trust in the company, complete trust in the person, and complete trust in the product. So it's very hard to pitch a sale on social media, but there's a way to do it and a way to monetize on it. And we're going to be going over that in this class as well. Now, if you guys have any questions, my number is available on the course. And this is my email right over here. So if there's anything you want to reach out to me or any questions you have on the material, feel free to get in touch with me as soon as you, as early at your earliest convenience. All right. This is Professor Suarez signing off. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.